Hi, I'm Rose McDonough, and if you are tuning in for the very first time, I'm a retired home ec teacher, and my goal has always been make some foods that are really simple for everybody to understand, to know how to do. So today I'm doing overnight cinnamon rolls. Now, we're not going to get all the cinnamon rolls now because it's getting dark outside. I'm going to start them, put them away. Tomorrow morning we'll start filming again so that you will be able to see step by step what to do. The easiest cinnamon roll recipe I have ever made in my whole life. You will love it too. I will enjoy the flavor. Unfortunately, you have to make your own to do that. So the first thing I did was gather all my ingredients, and I am going to use my KitchenAid, not because you have to use a KitchenAid. It's just a whole lot easier. I have a hand mixer. I also have this one. If all you have is a hand mixer, use your hand mixer to put it together at the beginning. If you don't have a hand mixer, it's just going to take you a little bit longer to work all the flour into it. Sorry that you're going to have a right arm a little bit stronger than your left if that's what you're doing. So I've got my bowl, and it's weird, but I have hot water in my bowl. The reason I have hot water in my bowl is I wanted to take the chill off of the bowl before I begin adding my other ingredients. I have my water. I was a little bit nervous. I got out, I put the water in, and I thought, oh, maybe I made it a little bit too high. But it's at 120 degrees. You don't want to go any higher than that because it will kill the yeast. I put the equivalent of 2 packages of yeast in here. I'm actually using live yeast. So because I'm using the live yeast, it comes in a cake. I cut off what I needed, which was 14 grams, to put in here. I pre-measure mine out in little twisted packages and have it in the refrigerator. So I've already dissolved my yeast in here. I'm going to pour out this hot water that I have in here. And I'm going to begin with my yeast and my warm water. It's not completely dissolved, but it's beginning to dissolve pretty well. So it'll be fine. It will mix up throughout, and it has all night to be activated. So whatever is not dissolved, it's fine. If you use a package of yeast, when you put that in, it'll almost be instantly that it will dissolve. This takes a little bit longer. I'm also going to add in 2 eggs. All I did was crack my eggs into this bowl, mixing them up just a little bit, just so the yolks are mixed. It doesn't have to be perfect, just a little bit to add to there. Dropping that in. If you drop any egg around, immediately get something up and wipe that out. You don't want that to be all over your countertop. I'm also going to add in 2 teaspoons of salt. Salt is a stabilizer when you're using it with yeast. Yeast needs to be warm, yeast needs to be fed, so I'm adding 1/2 cup of sugar. And if you think that's a lot, wait till you see how much sugar we're adding when we do the next parts of it. And I also have some softened butter. If you can see, I took my stick of butter and I cut it up into pieces so that it would soften a little bit faster. You surely can just leave it, let it sit out for a while, but this is what I did. I also want to mention, since I'm talking about butter, tomorrow, I'm not using margarine, I'm using butter. I prefer butter. Tomorrow, I need another stick because I'm going to be mixing up my softened butter and my cinnamon and my brown sugar. So I already went ahead and I have my butter out. I'm just going to let this sit out on the counter overnight so it'll be softened for what I need it to be tomorrow. All right, so I've got these ingredients added, and I need about 3 cups of flour just to get it started. I've already aerated this flour, so I'm not measuring exactly at this point. I already measured out a few cups of it to get myself started. So 3. And I'm going to put my bowl onto my mixer. And it's going to get a little bit loud, but I'm only going to do this for a few minutes. I'm using the dough hook. You don't need to use the dough hook. You can use whatever you want. You can use this one, the paddle, to mix it up. You can use these kind to mix it up. But again, I have the dough hook, so why would I not use the tool that I have? So turning this up, and I'm up on my tiptoes trying to do this. Usually I keep my mixer on my lower counter. And I'm going to turn it on just to about 2. I like to turn it down, turn it off every once in a while, lift it down again, and make sure. I don't have to do this. The mixer will eventually get it, but I don't want to have to take all that time. So I'm just going to help with my rubber scraper. here. Notice I'm using the really long rubber scraper too because I've got this deep bowl. So I'm just making sure that I've got the flour all mixed in here so we can be done much faster with this part of it. Lift it back up again, turn it on, 1, 2. I still have some lumps in here from my butter, so I might have to mix it a minute longer than I normally would want to. It did not call for melted butter, so when you're using soften, you have to make sure it gets all incorporated in first. With a KitchenAid, if you've had a KitchenAid for a while, sometimes what you have to do is go in and adjust your KitchenAid if you have this kind. This is the professional. There's a little screw back here, and if you have one of these and you notice that your paddle is not getting to the bottom of the bowl, change that and it'll lift it up just a little bit higher. Don't think that there's something wrong with it. Sometimes I'll occasionally just do this and lift it up and say, oh, I'll get to it at a later time. KitchenAid's really powerful. They're like workhorses. They'll go forever. I'm not telling you to go out and buy a KitchenAid, but if you can find one on the marketplace that you don't have one, you should look for one. They are great tools to have. I can still see a little bit of my butter, but it's not enough for me to worry about. So I'm going to go ahead and take this out. And I'm going to scrape off. And I'm going to start stirring in. And then as I stir in, it'll become more and more stiff, but the dough will also be softer. The recipe calls for something like 6 to 6.5 cups of flour. Dough is dough. When you're making it, it's by feel. I can't tell you. If you have an Italian grandmother who taught you how to make something wonderful like pasta, she'll tell you the same thing. It's by feel. There's no rhyme or reason to it. I can't tell you exactly what it's going to be. Let me stir this up. I'm going to go. I love this bowl because I can slide my hand in and I can tip my bowl back and forth and use gravity to help flip the flour around here a little bit to get into what I need it to be. All right, it's coming together very quickly. It's almost done. It's still a little bit sticky, so of course I'm going to have to add a little more flour to it, but the flour is dissolving very fast into it. All right, let me throw the rest of this in. So this was 5. And I knew that I would have to be adding more, but I'm going to go ahead and get this, and then I'm going to measure the other parts out by feel, not by exact measurements. I don't know if I mentioned that this is a no-knead dough. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to get it off with the dough hook, because we don't want to take the time. All we're doing is mixing it in. We want all the work to be done while it is in the refrigerator and it's raising. All right, I'm really having a hard time stirring in, so let me go ahead and get a little bit more and add in. I like to aerate my flour before I use it, so I usually just go ahead and put a whisk in there and aerate it, just to make sure that it's light. I'm going to get maybe 3/4 of a cup. I'm going to add a little bit more to it. I don't know how much it's going to be. So I'm to the point, the dough is getting really stiff. I have flour here on the bottom. I still need to scrape up, and that's why the rubber scraper is so amazing, because I was able to use that to easily go to the bottom. I'm looking at it. There's a little bit more flour. If I don't have it all added in, it's fine, but I also don't want this to be too sticky. So I'm touching and I can still feel a little bit of stickiness here. So I'm going to pour the rest of that flour in, and I'm just going to put my hand in here at this point and start moving this around. Again, we're not really kneading. I'm just flipping around just enough to incorporate the rest of that in there. And once I get this in, this is such a beautiful dough. I wish you could feel it. It is so soft. I'm trying to think of how to explain what the softness feels like. It's like a lovely pillow that you might want to lay your head on. It's just a nice feel of it. A little bit more flour added into there. And I want to just make sure the whole thing will pull together. I feel a little bit more stickiness. This is a sweet dough. That's part of the reason why it's so soft also. You have that sugar added into there. It smells good. I like the smell of yeast though. Maybe not everybody likes that. All right, that's about it. I don't have to do much more than that. I'm feeling it. What's left, I do have a little bit of stickiness on my hand, but that's on my hand. You're pulling apart. If you see a whole lot of holes like that, I want to go ahead and try to mash that back down again and mix it. So again, I'm just going to turn it and flip it a little bit. I'm doing very little kneading because we don't need to knead this dough. It's going to do all the work of itself later. But that's a soft dough. That's about all I need. I was able to bring it together into a ball. I'm going to cover this and refrigerate it, and you will see it in a few minutes, but it'll be tomorrow morning for me.